Out of Left Field is presented by the Lehigh Valley Health Network. Welcome everyone to Out of Left Field. This is a special edition. I'm Ken Kara and I thank you for watching. Joe Maddon, Hazleton native and three-time Major League Baseball Manager of the Year, joins us today to talk about his book that he wrote with award-winning baseball writer Tom Verducci called The Book of Joe. Now, before we begin, you have to understand this is more than a biography. It's also a guide for people to not suck at life by balancing all the information around us with our human heart and instincts.
First of all, you need to know that it began in 2020. It just didn't start last year. Recorded 100 hours while I was riding my bicycle during the pandemic in an RV resort in Mesa, Arizona. And on a daily basis, I would record and then I would send a dictaphone pocket, little microphone on the clip to my chain, and I would send that into Tom Verducci and David Black, who's the literary agent from David Black Agency, and then also Sean Desmond from the publisher 12. And they would come back to me the next day and they would give me guidance. Could you talk more deeply about a certain subject? Dig more deeply. They were always saying dig more deeply, and then they would give me examples on how to do that or thoughts. And so that's how the process began. 100 hours, and then I would send it to Jay, my wife Jay's sister Louise, and she would transcribe it. So that's how the background sets up. As we started this, the premise between Tom and I was to compare and contrast managing in the 1980s to present day. And then along with that, to include all the Maddonisms in regards to personal philosophy and how that relates to not just baseball, but outside of the game itself. And to then come to be let go by the Angels in this particular summer. Because I thought for sure I would be managing for the Angels when this book was released. I was preparing myself mentally for that, but of course it didn't happen. However, it gave me a lot of time to be back here in Pennsylvania in Hazleton, Sugarloaf, and really retrospectively think about a lot of different things, plus enjoy my first Pennsylvania summer in a long, long time.
Joe, as I was reading your book, and it's just the nerd in me maybe, I just kept thinking of Star Trek and Mr. Spock being the logical, analytical decision maker, and Captain Kirk being the heart, kind of human, gut instinct kind of guy. And I just kept going back to that. And I also thought how in my everyday life, with so much technology now, even small decisions can trip you up. How much do you hope your book helps people who, not in the baseball world, even make decisions and be able to maybe tune out some of the noise and maybe trust their gut instincts a little bit more?
Yeah, I mean, we are getting to that point where we want answers from machines as opposed to our own heart, soul, and experience and feel. Yeah, I mean, I'm all about that. Listen, I want the numbers, I want all the data, but at the end of the day, I really want to utilize my experience, the feel that I have to do what I'm doing, all the years that I put in, all the outposts I've served at, all the people that have mentored me and taught me. It's almost like people don't even count that anymore. It's not even sought after anymore. It seems like the process today is more for the controllable asset, the controllable person that really doesn't have a whole lot in his background. Is not going to be influenced by things that have happened to him in the past. He's not going to use the word feel, and they're just going to always attempt to logically explain what's going on and follow that path, which to me is both inaccurate and boring. To not include the human experience, I just don't get it. Even to the point, have you read the book Blink by Malcolm Gladwell? You should read Blink. I mean, because Blink really dovetails into what we're talking about. Because actually, I believe that we don't make just by the seat of our pants decisions, and we just aren't always extemporaneous. A lot of the times when you make those quick decisions, you think, wow, where did that come from? It came from your years of experience. It came from all this hay been putting in the barn for years. And then all of a sudden, here comes the moment, you make a quick decision, and God, where did that come? Was I too quick with that? Was it too, did I not think about it thoroughly enough? But you've thought about it for the last 30 or 40 years. And in the moment when you're called upon to react or make a decision, trust that it's been well thought out. Even though it seems like it just happened in a nanosecond, it's been about 30 years to build up that nanosecond of thought.
And Joe, there were a lot of great Hazleton stories, and I was wondering maybe like a DVD commentary section here, if you could expand on two that were influential that I really thought were interesting. One was the YMPA softball team, I think it was.
Oh my God.
And the second was, I never knew you worked at United Charities in West Hazleton.
The YMPA is as memorable as anything. I mean, I'm 19 or 20. I'm playing softball for the YMPA. I'm the youngest guy on the team. Maybe Louis Barletta might have been, and I think Ricky played a little bit too. But I'm playing with all these dudes that, when you're growing up as a kid, they were iconic Hazleton athletic figures. And I'm playing with these guys, and I'm playing on a slate bank at Northeast Field against pitchers that I can't hit. I felt very, very inept. You're challenged, you're failing, but loving every second of it. And then, so you're learning from these guys constantly. And actually, that experience hitting a fast pitch softball absolutely benefited me hitting a hard ball in a regular baseball season. I never felt so comfortable in a batter's box as I did when I played fast pitch softball and for the Scranton Red Sox in the same summer. Oh my God, the ball was bigger, it was slower, I was more direct to the ball. It was unbelievable. And I've often thought we should use fast pitch softball pitchers in professional baseball to help them hit a hard ball. I could go on and on about that. So, and then the other experience was going to the club itself after the game, and then the charity home. I came home 79, 80. I was let go by the Angels, and then I played for Santa Clara and Bakersfield, and then I came back east, and I needed a job. You get to work with these kids. I mean, and you got to be fast on your feet and your brain, man, to work with these kids who are always trying to get over on you. Always. They're always trying to get over on you. And to the point where they staged a fight on my first night in there. I didn't know it. They staged the fight, two biggest kids, and they're big. They're bigger than me. Two kids staged the fight in the foosball room. And I'm on duty there. So I just reacted to it. I grabbed the one kid from behind, my arms wrapped around, picked him up and carried him in the next room, put him against the wall. And that was it. Everything stopped. And afterwards, I was told that was actually the perfect thing to do. And after that point, the guys thought I was a badass and they left me alone. So it's just, these are the things that it's instinct, it's preparation. It's probably the State Trooper Eagles. It was playing for Richie Rabbits. And Jack Sywall is playing for Adam Saminsky. It's playing for Coach Ed Morgan, Paulie Bonomo, and Sister Suzanne. Everything was wrapped up in one right there. And that's what's not given enough credit anymore.
Welcome back to Out of Left Field, presented by the Lehigh Valley Health Network.
This is a special edition of Out of Left Field, where Hazleton native and World Series champion manager Joe Maddon is talking about his book, The Book of Joe. In Chapter 2 of our discussion with Maddon, he talks about some mistakes he made while he was a manager in the minors, and also how a chance encounter on an airplane changed his life forever. Joe, you talked about some mistakes you made in your book too, which I thought was interesting. There was one player who I think skipped a game for a concert, and you felt, if you had more experience, you wouldn't have been so hard on him. I thought that was interesting to see, because so often when I read depictions of you or that, it's all of these great decisions that you've made and the success that you've had. So it was interesting seeing you include some of the stuff you might have done differently as you gain more experience.
I hope Jay reads the book. I hope Jay finds out about it. Jay Lewis, I would buy him the best bottle of whatever he is drinking right now, or whatever he's doing. Jay Lewis is a good dude, and I was just too young to know anything at that point. So he told me the truth, and I should have just dropped it right there and protected him, but I didn't. You thought you were doing it was the Lombardi. It was on the backside of the Lombardi area. You're supposed to be tough and all that kind of thing, and I didn't react well to it. So I'm not proud of that at all. I thought that was really retrospectively stupid. And I wish Jay Bird comes to the forefront so I could apologize to him. That was a great group of guys, and everything I said in that book was accurate. That's how we did it. And I was wrong. I was absolutely wrong regarding the decision to let him go. The other good one was with Midland, Texas, when I put the want ads in the back of the stalls, the toilet stalls.
in the urinals, yeah, when they were.
Yeah, and I find the whole team a day's pay in Little Rock, Arkansas, because I said, you guys didn't show up. You guys don't care. You guys aren't playing. Find a whole team a day's pay. Called Billy Bavasi, says, I want a day's pay subtracted from everybody's salary, including those that didn't play. Whoa. He got calls from everybody. He got calls from wives, girlfriends, agents, probably high school teachers. I don't know, high school coaches. That was horrific. And again, you can't be punitive in your methods. You got to be. There's time. Punitive would be something that truly outrageous that needed to be dealt with in that manner, but that needed a better hand. Yeah. But the point is, I'm so grateful for making the stupid mistakes in the 80s that permitted me to not make those stupid mistakes afterwards. So that was another bad one. That was horrible. One heads above urinals. I went to a local newsstand and I got newspapers from every part of the country and cut out the one. At that time, one hands were pretty big. Put them all over the place, and I was yelling at them. Dumb. One of the dumbest things I've ever done.
Was that one of the biggest challenges of your career, having to go against what you kind of learned growing up from men you respected, who are your coaches, who did it one way, and then finding out in the real world you had to apply it another way and be a different type of coach?
Yeah, I mean, right, because we where we came up from, it wasn't that easy, and nobody cut us any slack, and it was tough, and you were taught, tough methods were probably the right methods. So yeah, I had to sift through all that, come up with my own conclusions, which I eventually did. One of the best, and I should have known it by then, was my college football coach, my backfield coach, Coach Bob Root, who taught me to teach through communication and non-intimidation. And I didn't hold up to that standard, but it was great that did happen, because I did step back from there. I wrote a long page, a paper about that. I can't find it right now. I gave it to Tom, but I wrote like a 7 or 8 page paper that I sent to Bavasi about that entire incident. And I'm seeing if I could find it. I'd be happy for you to read it. But I introspectively thought, what was I doing? And I came up with all these conclusions, and a lot of it I followed from that point on, based on that experience at Midland, where I took it personally. And I should not have, but I did. I took it personally. I think that's what happens when people get angry, upset, seek retribution. Sometimes you take it personally, and when you do that, you may not react in your best way.
I mean, I'm reading the book, and I kind of expected this. All of a sudden, I'm reading about World War I or something else, and we're going and taking different turns. Do you have a favorite or something that sticks out, non-baseball reference in the book? There were a few books that you were influenced by that I saw were quoted. Was there anything that was in there that really sticks out in your mind right now?
First chapter, whatever you put out there comes back to you. That's another one. That's as pertinent to me as Gene Mock talking to me by the clubhouse. I mean, I was upset, pissed, upset when I got passed over. I was really upset. I got Babalu, and I told him I'm quitting the Angels, and he said, no, we're going for a ride. And he got me in a car, went out to the airport, Falcon Field. There was an Anzio's Landing, a little Italian restaurant parking in the parking lot. I just started, I'm just unloading on him. And said, no, that's it, man. They don't see this. Because I put all the program, back then, I didn't have to get the permission of the general manager or the farm director to create the minor league program of instruction. I just did it. And then I would tell them, that sounds good. So I was in charge of all that stuff. And then I get passed over from my good friend, Bruce Hines. And I love Bruce. Jeter's great. He was on my staff 2 years ago. But I got passed over, and I didn't like it. So Bob Lou said, listen, you don't even want that job. I said, what are you talking about? He says, you're going to go up there and coach first base, and you're going to see what they're going to do to your hitters. You're going to be pissed off all the time. You're not going to want the job. Because he had been in the big leagues 10 years. He knew how it worked. He says, believe me, you don't want the job. Bob, you're nuts. I want the job. So I was like totally not myself that whole spring training, and I'm going to Midland, Texas as a roving hitting instructor and coordinator. Get on American West flight, and that lady sits on the window, somebody on the aisle. I get the middle seat, and that made it even worse, like at 9 o'clock in the morning flight. So, and this lady wanted to talk, and I didn't want to talk. And I was just in that mood. I had my little fuzzy headset on, but she kept going, and I'm not rude, so I listened. And then finally, she said that at somewhere on the path, she said, remember one thing. I don't even know why she told me that. Maybe she saw my attitude was bad. Whatever you put out there is going to come back to you. He said, what? And she said it again. I said, wow. So I got off that airplane. I was a different human being. I mean, I got up. I could not wait to go to work. I was myself. I understood that. I was not putting out good vibes. I was putting out negativity and weirdness that I'd never done before. So that one sentence in that airplane ride, she got me straight right there. And from that moment on, I knew I was going to get my opportunity. You didn't know when, but I knew I would. So just keep doing what you had been doing. And that was after Gene's comment, that comment got me right to the point where I got back to who I had been. And within a year or two, I was in the big leagues as the bullpen coach for Marcel.
We have one final segment with Joe Maddon talking about his book when we come right back. Out of Left Field is presented by the Lehigh Valley Health Network. Welcome back to Out of Left Field, presented by the Lehigh Valley Health Network. In our final segment about Joe Maddon's book, The Book of Joe, we hear from two men who are very close to him about their favorite parts in the book. First, it's Rick Vaughn, the former Vice President of Communications for the Tampa Bay Rays. He was there when Joe Maddon was there, and he's currently the Executive Director of Joe and Jay Maddon's Respect 90 Foundation. Then Bob Curry will chime in. He's the co-founder of the Hazleton Integration Project with Maddon.
Remember that one time when you and I know you have it in the book about when Gene Mauch came up to you and you were running, I think it was either instructional league or minor league, spring training, whatever it was. And Gene Mauch, I mean, you had no idea, you were doing your thing, but then Gene Mauch comes up to you and goes, "Hey, you're running a really good show here." And how impactful that was, that one incident, and how many times you referred to that, in the whatever that is, 40 years, almost 40 years since it happened is, I think is so cool. I think that's the part I like the most was the real development, the blacksmith work of Joe's career really got forged during those years, and hearing those stories and how something that seemed kind of minor at the time, 30 years later, you still remember it like it was yesterday.
I can see him standing by the batting cage right now. I mean, perfect hair, polyester everywhere, cigarette, smell of whatever that cologne was that he wore, and gives me one of these. And I walk over by him, and I'm still inside the batting cage. He's outside. He says, "You've created either great or wonderful atmosphere around here." And then you think, what the hell's he talking about? And the next thing you know, he's gone. He's like the wind. He's like Mariah. He's gone. And he made me think. He made me think because I had no idea what I was doing. I was just doing it. And again, getting back to feel, experience, touch, blink, intuitive methods. I didn't know. So I sat down and again, that led to the relationship building comments and the trust comments and exchange of idea comments. Because that's what I gathered from him asking me or presenting that statement to me was, you better understand what you're doing here, because you just can't rely on happenstance to occur again. You need to have some kind of a method, a formula to recreate this in case that it's not happening next year. What can I do to bring this back on track? And that was my thought. So that's when I went home that night. I was totally engaged in trying to figure out what's he talking about. And that was the conclusion. But again, as you're saying at RB, I mean, that's what most of us need, right? We all need that one moment where that I guess it's some sort of a seminal moment where, like a real icon in your life, somebody that you really believe and trust, think is larger than life, says something positive to you that that kind of like defines the next 40 years, like you're saying. I mean, I didn't even think about it in those terms. To constantly go back to that one refrain and how it influenced so many things I did after that.
I wonder if it isn't related to it, which is many of those early iconic experiences are taught to us by mentors who are incredibly obsessed with that one thing. Gene Mauch, baseball strategy. And you think of that, but you have all this other stuff going on. And I think, to me, the most interesting thing is how you're able to step out of that day-to-day experience, the grind, the demand, the stage, the size of the media coverage, all of that, and then still understand that life is a question of balance. And you've got to counterbalance all of that with other things. You develop the entire charitable organizations coming from that, riding your bike, as I recall, and all of the other things you've gotten involved with. And that, to me, I think, is the testament to what it means to be a great mentor, a great manager at this point in time. I think it's totally related to the two things that we talked about, which is information and art, and blending the two. Because if you're all left brain, you're one thing. You're all right brain, you're something else. So for me, I think the most interesting thing, and maybe you could talk about that, Joe, as well, is this: how do you, I think you said it in the book, how do you not suck at baseball, but also not suck at life?
Right. Yeah. Well, you kind of intimated the one thing there, that also there's a group that were iconic. What you took away from them was, I never want to be like them. There's that part of it too. I mean, I wanted to be mentally like Gene Mauch, but there was other guys that I saw along the way, coaches, managers, whatever, that my takeaway from those particular people was, God, I would never want to be like them. I would never want to do that with my players. And that might be like an even a greater resource than the ones that you did like. I think that's a good point. I mean, because I have said that, and what you just said is absolutely accurate. So yeah, the takeaway is balance. There's got to be balance in everything that we do. But that's where I'm at with this whole thing. Yeah, you can't. It is everybody's an extremist anymore. Nobody understands how to not work both sides, but understand both sides. And I want to believe that I do. I want to believe that I can understand, listen to both sides of an argument, and I want to believe. I don't know if it's true enough, but I want to believe that I would be able to take both sides and to conclude independent of bias somehow. I've always thought I was a good scout, and to be a really good scout, to really be a helpful scout, I think you have to, I guess there's got to be some kind of internal bias somehow, but you got to be listen to both sides in a manner with pure intentions. I've talked about that a lot, and then conclude. That person that I didn't necessarily agree with, now all of a sudden they're making some complete sense to me, and maybe it does shift my opinion. But you have to be open to that. You just can't be so galvanized on one side or the other that you can't see the other side's perspective. In the game today, the lack of balance between analytical front offices and the dugout. Bruce Bochy getting hired the other day was outstanding. The fact that the Phillies retained Robbie Thomas, outstanding. I love Matty Cataro getting the job in Kansas City. I love all of that. These guys that have really been through the ringer to get to where they're at. And I know that they will utilize information, but I also know they have something to bring to the dance, and they're not controllable in a sense. So I don't know if that answers the question, but that's pretty much what I'm trying to get across. I'm not trying to attack anybody. I'm attacking the industry, I think, a little bit, but not just this industry. I think many industries that are relying more on data and information as compared to the heartbeat and the human being and their influence. That's what I'm banging on.